Hey guys, we're on. So Nikki, what are these images behind you?
So I am in my office here for Dixon Hughes Goodman, and this is my office wall. I have to bring my creativity in with me to work every day. And so these are some pictures that I have taken with my talks that I've given.
Oh,
so
that's
this
cool.
flying cucumber that's sitting right over my shoulder was taken in a back alley in Richmond, Virginia. And those little girls were taken in a tunnel in their graffiti in the Krog Street Tunnel in Atlanta. So they all have some personal story tied to me, but they are pictures that have influenced me a lot. So I like having them here in my office.
Is there one per city that you've spoken in?
No, I only have about 8 or 9 behind me.
Okay.
So I've spoken in more than that.
Really? How many?
So 21 cities, AIGA talks. Yeah, 21. So I'm very fortunate. AIGA has been very good to me and very supportive. So it's been a lot of fun traveling to the different chapters. Next up is my talk in Denver, Colorado in March. And then Boise, Idaho. I know. I'm excited to go.
And Boise, Idaho. That's cool.
Boise, Idaho. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very cool.
So that's coming up.
So you did New Orleans, obviously, last year, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And which other ones did you do last year?
So last year, I'm going to look at my cheat sheet here. So last year, I did New Mexico. Well, that was 2014. Hold on. Boston, Rhode Island, Charlotte, and New Orleans was last year.
Nice. I love Boston.
I know. Yeah. So Boston and Rhode Island, actually, they tag team. So I did them back to back 2 days in a row because they're so close. Yeah. Very cool. I'm slowly making my way through the AIJ chapters.
Yeah. That's good. So when you hit them all up then what happens?
Then I guess I'm going to try to go out of the country. That's my goal, is to try to go international, maybe Toronto or Paris. That's my goal. We'll see if that happens.
Oh, that would be nice.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. That's my goal.
Hey, we do have an AIGA chapter in somewhere in the Middle East. AIGA Middle East.
That's right. We do.
You could do that.
I could. That would be something else. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
It's really cool. So Steve has put into the chat bar that this isn't Steve, but we are watching you in class today. So who is it if it's not just Steve?
Hello, not Steve.
Yeah. Who's in class, guys? Let us know. So it's the whole class.
Okay.
I hope this is a good use of your class time, by the way, and you don't go, oh, this tuition isn't going to waste.
I used to teach. I taught graphic design and typography at the University of South Carolina for 5 years and loved it. I miss teaching so much. But I know having these types of things help break up the class day or the week. So I'm happy that you guys were able to join.
Yay. Okay, so for everybody who's on this call, we have a question for you. In the column on the right, I want you to type in or tell us what is your favorite font. We just want to know your favorite typeface, maybe your go-to typeface. So, Nikki, what is your favorite font?
My favorite is the typeface Miss Eves, designed by Zuzana Litko in the 90s for Emma Gray magazine. And it's really the story behind it, how it was named after John Baskerville's mistress, Sarah Eves. And she was responsible for publishing a lot of his manuscripts and work after he died. And so it's kind of a way to represent the women in the history of typography. And then the typeface itself, I think, is very beautiful. The attention to detail, especially in the ligatures. So it is definitely my favorite typeface.
Oh, great.
Miss Eves.
Miss Eves, that's nice.
Yeah, Steve needs to enter the favorite typeface of the class.
Yeah, is there
class?
Is there a whole class favorite? See, what we use here a lot is actually Sarah Eves is the first woman to show up in my history class. Oh, great.
They're saying, oh.
No, you don't know. How about the rest of you? You guys have a favorite font? What we use here a lot is we love Jackson Kavanaugh and his OK Type Foundry. So yeah, Michael uses all right sans all the time, and I'm a Harriet fan.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beginning class. A lot of people who are not designers have favorite fonts, so it's okay to say Arial or Times New Roman, whatever. We're not being snobby.
I think Jackson has a cat that's named apostrophe, like it's a apostrophe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think so.
That's great.
Times New Roman. Oh, good. I hate Times New Roman.
So it's the full class who's on under Steve's account, and now they look schizophrenic because they're talking to each other. Okay, you'll put your student comments in the questions. Okay, great. So as we're getting started here, I'm Rachel Elnar, and I'm a producer here at TypeEd, where we educate designers about the importance of typography. And Nikki, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Nikki Villagomez. I am the creative studio manager at Dixon Hughes Goodman in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Great. So welcome all to Typography Dojo. Just real quick, under our video down here somewhere, there's a button that's called Share. So if you click on that, there's options to be able to tweet or to Facebook or Google+. Please share it with your friends and followers, and that would be very much appreciated. Okay, thanks you guys. So Nikki and I first met on Twitter a few years ago. I only knew her as this lonely comma, and that's from her Twitter avatar. And since then, I've gotten to know her as a friend and a design conference buddy. And now she has this fabulous book. It's been great going through and reading this. And she'll tell us a little bit more about this. But I'm interested in more of her letter hunting adventures. And obviously, she's had at least 21 so far, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yeah, and then we'll take some questions at the end, and Nikki will give away a book, the Culture and Typography book, to the most interesting question asked today. So feel free to put your questions under the questions tab at the bottom, and we'll get to the questions at the end, and the most interesting question will win a book. Okay, so Nikki, I just want to ask. Maybe for people who don't know anything about the book or not followers of you on Twitter, what is it that you do and why do you have a passion for it?
Well, my day job is I am the creative studio manager at an accounting firm. And, we're limited to 2 typefaces and about 13 colors in our color palette. And so when I took this job 5 years ago, it took me about 2 months of being in this job where I realized I needed some kind of an outlet, because prior to that I was teaching, as I mentioned before, I was teaching typography and graphic design. So subconsciously my love of typography was being met. But it took about 2 months where I needed an outlet, and around that time I went to TypeCon, the typography conference at the time was located in New Orleans. And that just reaffirmed being at that conference that I really needed to find a way to celebrate this love I have of typography while maintaining my in-house job. And so 9 years prior to that, I was the founder of the South Carolina chapter of AIGA. And one of our events was in December, we did this culture exchange with the Honolulu chapter. And I had never been to Hawaii. I still 9 years later, I've never been to Hawaii. I wanted to find a way to experience that culture. And so I had made friends at the AIG leadership retreat with the president at the time and proposed this idea of us boxing up anything and everything to do with South Carolina, sending it to them, and then them doing the same for us. And so this whole event of experiencing Hawaii really had a huge impact on me. And so this blog that I started, which is what I took away from that conference, TypeCon, is how all of this started. So I started my WordPress site, posting 2 pictures side by side every day. That was the goal I set for myself. I'm a big believer on setting goals. So my goal was to post 5 days a week. And just don't worry about how many hits it got or any comments that I received, and just do it for me. And so I came into work every day at 5:30 in the morning and wrote my blog, and then I started my day. And that blog is now it'll be 5 years old in July.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how all of this started. So it started with the Culture Exchange 9 years ago, and then my blog, doing that for a few years. And then I started getting the AIGA talks and started slowly getting the talks and doing those. And then the talks led to me speaking at HOW, and then speaking at HOW led to me doing the book. So that's how it all kind of snowballed. And it all started just because I had this love of typography, and it came from a very honest spot. You know, I wasn't doing it for money. I wasn't doing it for retweets or comments. It was just, I needed a balance at work.
What were the things that you packaged up in the box to send to Hawaii?
So it was basically South Carolina in a box. We put a bag of grits. We put tea from Charleston. We put anything and everything that had to do with South Carolina. And each piece had a fun fact hanging off of it. You know how each state has like crazy laws. So each piece had a fun fact. And then we had the month before our in-show event, which was our statewide competition for graphic design. So everything that was in that competition, we got waivers from those designers to send in the box as well. So Hawaii got to experience pieces designed by South Carolina designers for South Carolina clients. So it was incredible to receive Hawaii's box. Everybody got leis. They sent sand from Waikiki. They had a Hawaiian soundtrack for us to listen to while we opened their box. Awesome. But then it was the pieces designed by the Hawaiian designers for Hawaiian clients that had such a huge impact. When you lay it all out on the table, it was very clear that their culture affected their typography choices. A lot of sans serif typefaces were chosen, a lot of blues and greens undertones. It was just a beautiful, beautiful designs. So the next year when we did the Culture Exchange at the leadership retreat, I was looking to do it with somebody. And we ended up making friends with the president of the Las Vegas chapter. And so we did the same thing. And it was such a different experience from what they sent. You know, I always joke, I felt like I needed to be disinfected going through their box because they sent like dice from the casinos and everything. But such a difference of design from Hawaiian designers to Vegas. You know, big, bold colors, a lot of strong angular shapes were used. So again, their culture plays a very big part in the typography and design choices. So for me, it was a very interesting project, but I just kind of kept it in the back of my mind all those years until I became an in-house designer. So when the blog started.
Yeah, that's great. And so how do you go about, I mean, obviously you use this interest in typography to go about into the city and try to find the culture. How do you do that? How do you prepare for that?
I have my trusty camera, which is just a handheld $150 camera from Target. And then my iPhone, and take pictures. And I think the most important thing for me is I just get into a very focused state. I'm usually by myself. I mean, I've gone a few times letter hunting with people, and that's a completely different experience because I'm chit-chatting. But if I'm by myself, it's kind of dangerous because I get into one of those states where I forget what time it is. Cars could be coming at me. I don't know because I'm standing there zooming in on a picture. But I am just in a heightened aware state at that time. I'm not checking my email, I'm not checking my phone. I'm just very conscious of my surroundings. And I have found a lot of beautiful typography is at the tops of buildings where people don't normally look, in back alleys. And then manhole covers, which is one of my favorites, you know, just the utilitarian design and railroad tracks and graffiti and things like that, that most people on a given day, they're too busy to stop and notice.
Okay, so if I was going to go about this, what type of things should I be looking for? I mean, obviously, if I go, and I'm in Los Angeles, so I want to look around for how the culture affects our topography here. What should I be looking for?
So it's going to be hard for you to find something in newer areas. So new, revitalized spots, parts of town, aren't going to have as much of that cultural awareness because most likely it's been taken away with the new building or the new construction. If you go to older parts of town, you will see a lot more. There's a lot more to discover. That's been what I have found. What do you look for? It's just, I mean, there could be typography on telephone poles to stamps and concrete that, you know, they use to mark their company. to the tops of buildings and signs. But my big thing is I'm not really interested in a Starbucks sign or a Target sign. You know, I'm really looking at what's specific to that area.
Mm-hmm. And so are you going around taking a lot of photos, and then when you bring them back, do you analyze what the culture is, or can you figure that out while you're out and about?
I can see it when I'm out and about, because I'm so used to, like we all are, the city that we currently live in. So when you're taken up and put down into a brand new city, all of your senses are heightened, right? It's like when you go on vacation, everything's new for you. So I feel like I'm at a better state to go and take pictures and be more aware of what's unique to a city. Rather than right now, if I go out and start taking photos in Charlotte, it's going to be really hard for me because I've lived here for the last year.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
And it's even harder if you're born and raised in the city you're currently living in. So you have to kind of get into that tourist mentality when you go out taking pictures.
That's pretty cool. Are you looking specifically for scripts, or for, I mean, is there anything in the typography that you're looking for?
So usually hand lettering, the hand lettering, and then manhole covers and graffiti. The fabricated signs I'm not as interested in, because they usually don't hold as much character as the hand lettered and the graffiti do. So that's really what I'm looking for.
There's something interesting here in Los Angeles. We actually have quite a few cultures
meshed in.
Right?
That's how New York is. Yeah,
yes, right. So that to me would be much more difficult, because in Koreatown it's different, and you know, in the older areas it's different. And then we have downtown LA, where I am, where a lot of the typography is from the 1920s and 30s, which is totally different than some of the older areas on the west side. So is there a way to boil that all down, or do you keep them all separate?
Well, my experience with San Francisco is, you know, going to Chinatown. I did keep it separate. Like when I brought all the pictures into my computer, I have a Chinatown folder within my San Francisco folder.
Yeah, right.
And then when I was in Boston, I visited a couple graveyards. So I have a graveyard folder within the Boston folder. It makes total sense to me how I organize my pictures, but I'm sure if somebody looked at it, they'd be like, what in the world is she doing? But I have been able to find a way to organize them all. But when you've got the different, it's in New York's the same thing. When you've got these different neighborhoods that have their own identity to themselves, it's hard to reference them as, oh, it's New York City, because you think of Chinatown or the Lower East Side. It's very specific of what it looks like to it by itself.
But there must be some sort of blending between the Chinatown in San Francisco, it being in San Francisco, and like the Chinatown in other cities, probably the one here in Los Angeles. Maybe the typography is different. I don't know if you've seen that. I don't know. It's hard to tell when they're written in the different languages. That's true.
You know, the different scripts, the different characters.
That's true. So is there anything during your travels or your letter hunting that's totally surprised you?
What has totally surprised me? Well, first of all, it has been very reassuring to see how supportive everybody is, and how this topic is an interest to everybody that I've come across with my speaking engagements. So that's been the first surprise. The second surprise, I think, is just seeing how different cities, when I go in to have a preconceived notion of what that city is going to be like, and then it's completely different. So for example, Orlando, I had never been to Orlando before. I was expecting to get a lot of pictures from Disney, because with my speaking engagements, I asked that the local designers of that area send me pictures that are unique to the city. And then I use those pictures as part of my presentation. So I'm really trying to engage local designers. And so I was expecting with Orlando to get a lot of pictures of Disney, but I didn't receive one until the very end. It was like this shaky Instagram photo. And when I went there, what my finding was with most of the pictures that I was sent is they all had some reference to the city of Orlando in the picture. City of Orlando, the city beautiful, which is the motto of the city, or Orlando Public Library, Orlando Museum of Art. So what I was able to conclude with that talk was that the people who live in Orlando are very proud of their city, and they don't really want to identify with Disney,
right? Yeah.
Same thing happened in San Antonio. I thought I'd get a lot of pictures of the Alamo. I didn't get anything.
That's how we think of it, I guess.
Yeah, because, you know, when you don't know of a city, you kind of tie the landmark to it.
Right.
And so residents don't want to be associated with the landmark.
Gosh, so it's almost like you're uncovering a secret or a treasure
kinda.
that only locals know, right?
And when I always show that last slide, like my conclusion slide, they're all like, "Oh yeah, that's us." Like they could see it. And so that's fun, you know.
That's really cool. Hey, maybe you can do a book on each city.
Oh gosh.
No,
I don't know. Putting a book together is a lot of work. It took a lot of time.
Yes, I'm sure. Just choosing between, you know, what to include, what not to include.
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
Right. So, hey guys, while you're listening to Nikki talk, definitely use the tab underneath to submit your questions. Nikki will give away a book to the most interesting question. To her, it's her decision. So, you know, we don't have any jury here. So, Nikki, I wanted to go through some of the photos that I thought maybe you can speak to some of these. Let me get this up.
So first one that goes up, I think, is the Go sign. Oh, my book. There's my book again.
So there's the book. Let me just like us. There you go. Okay.
So I can tell you, Go signs. This was taken in Syracuse, New York. A Go sign, for those of you who don't know, is a sign advertising a business that is no longer in that building or no longer exists. And what was interesting to me about this sign is that it is specific to the city because it says Syracuse on it. And it is on the side of a building that looks to a busy highway. And I thought the use of the illustration, because that cow looks like he's having the time of his life there, but he's about to die because it's no bull for a good steer, you call this company. But the change in type is always something that gets my attention. The way the word call is in script. And then everything else is all uppercase with that drop shadow. So this is one of my most favorite Go signs that I've come across.
It is really interesting. Why do you think they put the call in script? Because they want you to see it right away?
Yeah, and there's no phone number.
I know, that's really odd.
I know. So it's just, I have a lot of questions about this sign, but they all start with that cow. Look at how confused he looks. He's like, what is about to happen to me?
He looks like a baby. Was there other signs as well?
No, this was it.
This was it.
Mm-hmm.
Steve says maybe they didn't have phones yet.
Maybe not.
I don't know how you would call without a phone. Next time, now it will be tweet, right?
Yep.
Tweet us. Okay, I'll go to the next one. So this is the manhole covers.
Manhole covers. So the one in Albuquerque is my most favorite that I have come across. I've never seen anything like it, and it celebrates their tricentennial, obviously. But this is that design on the manhole cover is part of their flag of the city. And these are all over town. And I just thought it was such a beautiful design for something that cars run over every day. So this one, definitely you will not see this in Los Angeles. This is unique to the city of Albuquerque. The one in the middle was taken in San Francisco, and it's from the water department. And the one on the right is Cleveland O, which I love that they have Cleveland, comma, and then just the letter O, not OH. So 3 very unique manhole covers and that are unique to the city that they are in. So these are hard to find. The most common ones that you find are like Bell South or, more specific to a region. But these are unique to the actual city. So if you find one like this, it's rare. So
the Albuquerque one, it looks painted, is it not?
It is. It's not painted on purpose like that. I think that's just they must have marked it for a reason, because some of the others I came across weren't painted.
Oh, I see. Because I would say it takes a lot of work to paint each one.
Right.
Right. And then the one in the middle is not round at all, or is it focused in? Is it zoomed in?
It's a rectangle. Okay. And then I just zoomed in. I just zoomed in on the middle portion of it.
Oh, that's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's very different, very unique.
Very nice. Okay, so I'll go to the next one.
Okay. So this was taken in Miami, Florida, which I had never seen so much graffiti in my life as I did there. One of the educators, Margaret Gonzalez, who taught there at a school there, she, after my talk, she said, "What are you doing tomorrow?" And I said, "I'm just going to go walking around." She's like, "I'm coming to pick you up and I'm taking you to Wynwood, the Wynwood Arts District." And she stayed with me for about 2.5, 3 hours that day after my talk and drove me all around Wynwood and just took pictures of the most beautiful graffiti. And this is an example of the graffiti artist Retna, R-E-T-N-A. And he has a very distinct style, as you can tell by this. And that one on the right is a zoom in picture of his work. But Miami definitely reigns supreme in terms of graffiti in all the cities I've been to.
Well, you haven't been to Los Angeles yet, so
no, I'm waiting. I'm waiting.
Hopefully we'll bring you. Are these in fact letter forms? They
are. It's his specific script. I don't know what it says, but he does. And he's done a lot of famous work. I follow him on Instagram, and he does a lot of advertisements. He just did one with Justin Bieber, of all people. But he's starting to do like backdrops in ads and cars and things like that.
It's beautiful, but this is not old at all, right? How old do you think this is?
Yeah, because Wynwood's in a constant state of change. I don't know how long those stay up, but I think maybe a few months before they get painted over, maybe 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely more new.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one speaks to the question on the right from Kristen. When searching for type to photograph, would you look for mom and pop stores or unique burger spots? Yes, absolutely. The one on the left was taken in San Antonio, Texas. And this is on the side of a taco truck. And it is hands down one of my most favorite pictures I've ever photographed. This little truck just pulls up at lunchtime, opens up the window, and he's in business. And look at the taco. He's got these white gloves on and cowboy boots, and he is so happy. And I just love the way the type is so expressive, the way it's written in that script style, and the fish, and then the phone number with the little star in between. It's just great. So much expression. Like if you just took all that out and replaced it with Helvetica, it would have a completely different look and feel to it. And then 1 hour and a half away in Austin, Texas. So the one on the left is San Antonio, Texas. In Austin, this is a chicken truck, taco truck, and completely different vibe. They've got the tricked out truck. They've got the neon sign that says chicken. And then I zoomed in on the sign to the left of the C in chicken, where it says call in order with the phone number. It's the same information as the number on the left with the taken in San Antonio. The phone number, look at how differently it's handled, and just a different sophistication to it.
It's really nice. That's such a huge difference.
And it's only an hour and a half away, Austin from San Antonio. Yep. Completely different vibe in those two cities.
Wow. Really nice. Okay. Oh, let me see if I can change the aspect of this one.
Okay. So this was taken in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And this is a really interesting story. Bob's Cafe. I think you need to click off of it because it looks blue, like it's highlighted.
Oh,
that's okay. So this sign was Bob's opened in the 40s, and they put this sign up in the mid 50s, and it was the only neon sign that was right near the airport. So pilots would use this sign to help them land, to land on the runway. So it served a dual purpose, to bring people into the restaurant and for the pilots to make sure they landed correctly on the runway there in Sioux Falls. But this is just an example of neon signs. You don't see signs like this anymore. This restaurant is still in business. They put a new sign in the front of their restaurant, which is hideous. But just the way the word broasted is handled is so unique, that the change in script from all uppercase to the script writing is just a very interesting take. And these signs, and it still lights up, but you just don't see signs like this anymore.
Yeah. So when do you think this was, or what's the time period that this was built?
That was in the 50s.
In the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, really cool.
Yep. Okay. And then wayfinding. This was taken in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And probably when I say Albuquerque, you know now that this would fit totally in their downtown area. If you put this sign in downtown Charlotte, it would look absolutely ridiculous. But that whole Aztec vibe and then how they celebrate Route 66 on their wayfinding is very, very unique to the city.
Okay. And
yes, Kristen, I have seen the artists in Austin. Their murals that they paint on the side of the buildings there are huge. And that was my big takeaway from my talk there, was how much those murals, they're like, that whole motto with Texas, go big or go home. That's exactly how their murals are.
So this wayfinding, these street signs, do you see a lot of this happening from city to city? I mean, not every city is like this, right? They don't.
So yeah, I mean, it's harder to find unique wayfinding because everything has been so standardized with the green sign, with the white letters, you know. Here in Charlotte, there's a little queen crown on the side, like how this one has the Route 66. We have like a little crown because we're the Queen City. So that's unique. You won't find that anywhere, but the rest of the sign looks like you'd see anywhere else. So I was really excited to see this wayfinding. It's so unique.
It is. It's really unique. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, there's my book again.
Yay. Okay.
Yeah. So those are just some samples of pictures that are from my book, and that were also featured on my blog. Have been featured on my blog.
Excellent. So is there anything else in the book that we can learn about other than some of the things that you discussed today?
Well, I have my book organized by chapter of manhole covers. So it's a whole chapter on manhole covers. And I think by grouping them that way, it forces you to look at manhole covers in a different way. And the same thing with graffiti. When you look at graffiti from Atlanta to graffiti in Texas to graffiti in Miami to graffiti in New York, you start to really understand how the culture affects the different choices that are made. So I think by seeing them paired together in that way in a book, it kind of helps you see them in a new way.
So maybe when you're finished with all 50 states or or at least, you know, a larger amount of cities that you've been to, will you do another book?
Maybe. I don't want to say no.
I'm just saying that, you know, it'd be nice to see this comparison.
Maybe it's a lot of work to put them together. And I'm trying to keep up with my blog right now, which balancing my blog and my job. And then I also have a family. So I'm trying to balance all of that. So I think once I get a handle on it, maybe I can explore doing another book. We'll see how this one does. People might like it.
Can people help out with the book? I mean, like, for example, before you go into a city, you asked the AIJA chapter to contribute with photos, right?
Right. That's right.
Some of those photos in this book or no?
No, all of these photos are mine with the exception of one picture. But the photos, if I were to use pictures that weren't mine, I would have had to go through this massive photo release process. That would have been a nightmare to try to track down people. And I can use the pictures for my presentations because I'm not making any money off of my AIGA talks. And so it's just for that sole purpose. I'm not reproducing anybody's pictures. I'm using them for the reason that they took them. But for me to take your picture that you took in downtown LA and print it, and then I make money off of it, I would have to get all sorts of paperwork from you. So I just thought it would be easiest just to, I had plenty of pictures anyway, to use pictures that I had and put the book together that way.
I'm just thinking, we have a whole crowd of people across the nation. Maybe a crowdsourcing thing would be kind of fun.
I know.
Time, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we have a couple questions coming in. We'll take some time and do some questions.
Okay.
If you have questions, for sure, just click on the questions and topics tab here at the bottom, and we will answer them one by one. And the most interesting, exciting, exotic question is going to win a book today from Nikki. So we will start with the top down, since this one has been voted up by Steve, maybe by his class a couple times. He's asking, how about correspondents who do their own city and they get a section of your blog?
They get a section of my blog, meaning that they'll take over that section?
Um, I don't know, but maybe you have a correspondence section where they submit photos to you, and then you allow them to, or you talk about them, or you analyze them in terms of their culture.
Yeah, I'm 100% for that. When I started my blog, it didn't take long for me to go through my pictures that I did have, because I was posting 5 days a week, 2 pictures a day. And so I had posted on Twitter, anybody who wants to submit pictures, I would use them in my blog. And so I started getting a lot of pictures from people, and I've been using them like that. But I would love to do that, especially with students. I think that would be really interesting to get them looking at type.
That's great.
I'd love to do that, Steve.
Hey, Steve, maybe you can let us know, but do you have a camera at all? If so, we'd love to invite you on screen.
Oh, man.
Okay. So let's go for the next question, which is Jessica. She's saying, "Hi, Nikki, fantastic book. I created an exploration, much smaller, of type photography while traveling in Mexico and examining my own Mexican identity, looking closely at things around me as a way to look within. Your project started with you asking someone about their culture influence, and the book images are of various places and cultures. What have you learned about yourself in this investigation outside of your culture? And has your use of type shifted or been influenced by this project?" That's a great question.
What I have learned the most is not to assume what somebody else's culture, what a city's culture is, until you can experience it for yourself. And that's a very hard thing to do, because, media plays a very big role in that, especially with the way everything is now. So I try to go into any situation, whether it's for culture and typography, whether it's for work, or whatever it's for, with a clean slate and an open mind, because there's a lot of situations that you just can't determine just by assuming. And so I think that's been the biggest thing that I have learned, is just to not to assume. And then, has this impacted how I use type? I have a much better understanding how to pair script, type, lettering with sans serif typography or serif typography, because I have seen so many examples of how it's done well and how it's not done well. And so I think that's been my biggest takeaway in how I personally use type.
That's great. And actually, overall, people's typography gets better when they do more research, when they see what's been done out there and how to. So that would make sense.
Yep.
Good. Okay, so another one from Jessica. Why found type in an environment? What is it about typography in these environments that fascinates you and teaches you about our culture over other things you could photograph in a culture, like people portraits, food, architecture, etc.?
Okay.
Good question.
Well, I'm not really interested in food.
You're not interested in food?
No, I know, I'm weird. I could care less about food. Architecture, my husband's an architect, married him, so he's got that covered. So for me, typography is what I have the closest tie to. That is what I am most interested in. And what was the question? Why do I take pictures of found type? Because I think it was designed in a controlled environment, and when it's put out into an uncontrolled environment, the type changes. Like, for example, if you look at letters on a manhole cover, like really get down on the ground and look at them, the metal has shifted and contorted because big trucks are rolling over it and things like that. And so the letters are no longer in the place where they were meant to be. They have changed. And that, to me, is what I'm most interested in, is how weather and the elements have played a role in shifting the letters around. And a lot of times it makes a very beautiful design that was unintended by the designer.
It might be interesting to see if signage that's put up affects other storefronts on the street.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that. I mean, that would be more of a history project, I guess. But
Okay.
All right. This is a student from Steve's class. What sort of environment would be ideal for finding an area's character? I'm from Lodi, and I feel like it's almost non-existent around the area since it's changing so much, not to mention the wineries tend to use the same typeface. Would you try to look more into the originality of the local shops in an area, or would you maybe look into something a bit different?
So I would go off the beaten track. It sounds like there is a lot of renovation or new construction with these wineries going around in a certain area. Is there a way to explore away from that? I have found going into back alleys, there's a lot to be discovered there if you can stay safe. And also looking at places that have been untouched, you know, and like the ground, stamps in the concrete, telephone poles, things like that. So there's always something to discover. It's just a matter of looking a little bit further than what's on the surface.
Okay. I hope that answers your question.
I know. I don't know if I answered that one good enough.
Let's see, but Steve says Lodi doesn't really know its character, but it's there.
It's had an identity crisis.
Possibly.
And some cities do. Some cities have an identity crisis, and that's just the way it is.
Steve says they want to be something else.
They're wannabes.
Yes. Okay, another one. Okay, let's find a web developer, maybe a student with free time who could put a map on your site, and we can track not only your progress, but really chart the styles of each area.
Great. Let's do that.
There you go.
If somebody's got the time, I'm all for it. 100%.
Right.
I would love that.
Maybe someone in your class, Steve. That would be very helpful.
They get an A from me.
There you go. Okay, so the topic about industrial typography, you spoke about how you started to notice the sprinklers around town. Was that the first time you noticed due to the sprinkler signs, or was it something else?
It wasn't sprinklers. I think I first started noticing the fire hydrants. That was first, because fire hydrants have a seal that is stamped either into them or it's coming out. They're debossed onto the actual fire hydrant, which gives a lot of history. And then I went to the railroad tracks, which can be dangerous if you're not looking. And then the manhole cover. So it just kind of morphed from there. And then the stamps in the construction workers' stamps and how they stamp concrete. Once you start seeing this and noticing it, it's going to take over your life. So I'm warning you to proceed with caution. My family, they're trained now to know, oh no, she's looking at a manhole cover again. But if it'll take your friends a while to get used to the fact that you're like always looking at the ground.
So you make sure that you set aside time, not when you're just hanging out with friends, that you start doing your letter hunt, right?
Yeah, the best time for me is the morning after my AIGA talk is when I just go. I'll wake up early, like 5:30 or 6 in the morning, and I'll just go walking for hours, and it's so fun. It's harder with when I'm doing it in town when I've got my family with me. I probably have like a 30 or 45 minute window, but for the most part, that's when I've done. And then when we go to conferences, you know, it's a little bit easier to do it then as well. But I really get into another completely different mindset.
Well, I'm sure Seattle, you've never visited Seattle yet, right? You haven't?
I have not.
You have not. So I think this is a great time to invite you to speak at TypeCon.
Oh, again.
Which is coming up in Seattle.
Yeah. Yeah, that was nerve-wracking. Yeah, speaking with the AIGA crowd, and then how that was, those are always nerve-wracking. But when you start talking about typography at TypeCon, that's a whole other level of nervousness. So I think I put a tweet out there right before I went on that God bless my soul before I get up there, because I felt, you know, you can't say the wrong thing because they'll jump all over you.
Yeah, so those type designers,
knobs.
they can be. Yeah, they can be. They definitely are protective of their.
Yeah, as they should be. As they should be. It was definitely a great experience. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah. Another question from Kristen as a follow-up. But when taking these photos, do you have to source where they're found and give credit to those local areas, even if they're ghosted? Sometimes I see graffiti that would be awesome, but I'm not sure how to go about giving credit for some of the photos.
I always try to tag my pictures. If I take a picture and put it on Instagram, I can always tag the location. And if I know the artist, I will definitely tag them as well. But for like ghost signs, it's almost impossible to know who did it. So you can't really tag them.
Right. But you at least can you tag where you're located or?
Every blog post I do has the city that it was taken in, and I try to do as much history as I can on the posts and on the pictures, so I can give as much background as possible.
Great. Okay, so I think that's it. I think we've answered all 7. Did you want to choose one now?
Oh, okay. Are we done with the questions?
So can you click on the answered tab and then see the questions if you want to remember back?
Okay. I don't remember her name.
If you say her, it's Kristen, Jessica.
The girl who asked about who's from Mexico or did the Mexican.
Oh yeah. So it's Jessica.
Jessica, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
That was an interesting question. I've never been asked that before.
Great. All right. So yay, Jessica, you win a book. What we'll do is send you an email. We have your email address, and because you registered for the talk today, yay! So look at how Jessica is so cute. And so congratulations. I also want to see if I can invite Kristen to the screen. So Kristen, I'm going to try to invite you to the screen and see if we could just talk to your class just a little bit if you have any last questions here before we finish up. So I'm going to click on a button to invite you guys to a screen. And Jessica, Kristen, let me know if you're getting that. Oh, wow. They're freaking out. We would just like to see the class. And if not, that's totally fun.
And I think I've been friends with Steve on Facebook for how many years now? And I've never met him in person.
Really? Okay, here they are.
Oh, wow.
Can you turn down the volume a little bit? Thanks. Let's see everybody. Wow.
Great.
There's, yeah, go in that table.
Okay, so now they're hiding. Oh, there you go.
An empty room.
Hi, guys.
Hey, there you are.
There's Steve.
Now
Thanks for bringing your class. This is great.
You over here. Everyone lie on the table. Come on.
Can I ask what class? What's the class? What's the name of the class?
I can't.
We're moving around.
Can we hear?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Now we can hear.
Okay. Okay. So what is this class? What are you teaching here?
Typography 1.
Yay!
The best.
Yes.
That's good stuff right there.
Great.
So I have a question on the follow-up that sent you about the sprinklers. So when you go through for your history, do you actually check more into how they got to it and who designed it or what was the meaning behind it?
Yes, I try to do as much history as I can once I come back home and get the pictures in my computer and I'm writing a post about it, but not at the time when I'm letter hunting. When I'm letter hunting, I'm in my own world, man. You could hit me with a Mack truck and I wouldn't know it.
Was there one that you ever find that the history was really something outrageous compared to what the topic or the typography was?
No, because the typography on manhole covers, for example, it's very usually all uppercase, sans serif, very like block letters, so they hold up very well. So they don't really take many chances on manhole covers that I found. That one from Albuquerque is my favorite.
Oh yeah, I've been there. I like seeing all the different colors and how they really are very festive.
Yeah.
Well, be sure to also, if you have any photos you want to share with Nikki, she's on Twitter at, I think
I'll enter it again.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, let her know. I mean, show her what you have from your cities as well. That would be great. Maybe she can help you out with finding the culture in Lodi that you can't find.
Are there any questions from your class? They look really excited. That guy right there, I know he's got a question.
He's like me. He's listening to music, I think.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
We got one.
Okay.
Great.
So I walk around a lot too, the Sacramento area, the downtown and Old Sac, and I used to always do it as a kid as well, or like as a young adult teenager. I just want to know, how did you finally realize the point where you're like, oh, this is what I want to do, this is it? because I didn't even know what I was doing until, I actually found out that you can make a career out of it. I didn't know that I was interested in that sort of aspect.
I think it was teaching. I will tell you without a shadow of a doubt, I was not that good of a student coming out. I went to LSU, go Tigers, and I was definitely not the best student coming out of that. I was happy to be B's, C's, B's. I just loved graphic design. Hadn't found typography yet. I was still very confused about how to pair typefaces. That was a big unknown for me. But teaching type after I freelanced and then started teaching and then being involved with AIGA, that was when the bug punched me, bit me, did whatever it needed to do, because that was when I really fell in love with typography, was teaching students why choosing typefaces is so important in communicating a message. And that to me, that's what did it. Yep. You can't BS your way through it. Students are too smart. They'll catch on. So for me, that was it. So I feel good talking to students about that, because I was definitely not the star kid coming out of the program.
Can I ask what school are you guys at right now?
Art Institute in Sacramento.
Okay, great.
At least
Gosh, we're from all over the place.
Because I'm at a lot of schools right now.
Oh, yes.
And yeah, I want to talk to you guys about TypeCon, because I will be there this year. I think
great.
Someone's going to pay for it.
I'm not, Steve.
Well, I'll pretend I'm you.
Yeah. Great. Well, it was great seeing your class. Thank you so much for coming on the webcast with us.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys go. Nice to see you. Thank you, Kristen. So as we're wrapping up here, Jessica won a book, which is awesome. I guess if we gave it to, if you chose Steve, you would have to find one for each of the students. Yeah. But thank you all for joining us and practicing with us today in the Type Dojo. And actually, we're having another Type Dojo session in 2 weeks with Rod Cavazos. He's a type designer from PsyOps. And so I will send you an email with the link to sign up for that one. And hopefully we can continue practicing the Type Dojo every month or 2 weeks. Yes, Rod does rock. Yeah. Thanks, Nikki. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See you later. Bye.